Hello everybody, this is Al again, aka Chita, and today I bring you another tutorial on the AQA COMP1 pre-release analysis. First of all, I want to apologize for my voice. I recently had a cold and I'm still recovering from it, so that's why my voice sounds a bit weird. But in either case, the show must go on. And for that reason, why not record another video? So first of all, I started a completely new pre-release code straight from the AQA pre-release. Just copy and paste into a new project, and if you're going to do the same as me, don't forget that you also need to change the properties in here. So you have the card predict as the startup object, and then you'll be able to run the program. Alright. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on populating this array of variables tcard. We're going to populate the DAC, because currently, and if I run the program real quick, if we try to play the game straight away, what's going to happen is the program is going to crash for simple lack of validation. There is absolutely no validation towards is this text file even there? Does this text file exist? And even if we go ahead and put it, I can still crash the program very easily. If I open the Solution Explorer, go to bin debug, and I'll drag my DAC text file, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to crash the program, simply adding another 1 to the top of it, and let's see what happens. 1, and there we go, we have another error, because again, there is absolutely no validation towards this DAC file. So that's what we're going to do today. So in order to start, we're going to go back to the main program and we're going to create one more variable. I'm going to call it D for DAC val for validation as boolean, and I'm going to give it a default value of false. Okay, next we're going to scroll down all the way, and then we're going to create a new sub. So within the module, we're going to do sub check DAC. Then we're going to need byref DAC, which will be an array of tcard, as tcard, and we're going to need default for DAC validation. And once again, we wanted byref, I forgot to do it, so let me go back and do it real quick, as boolean. There's an alternative to that. You wouldn't necessarily need to pass this parameter if you want to make the sub into a function. It works either way. I'm just going to do this way just because I have to do one way, so why not this one? Okay, so what we want to do is, the first thing that we want to do in this, we want to populate this variable, because we're going to change the sub main to, instead of loading the DAC, we're going to check the DAC, and this sub is going to load the DAC for us. So let's start adding some validation, shall we? Try, and this will make sure that no exceptions will be thrown at us. Like, okay, exceptions will be thrown at us, but it won't stop the program from running, and we'll be able to handle these exceptions, which is exactly what we want. And if you're not familiar with the term exceptions are pretty much when you do something wrong, so just type in garbage, and this blue squiggly line means that it has an error, but it's basically an exception. Basically means that the program can't run a certain line of code, or something is happening that's preventing the program from running. That's an exception. Alright, let's start then. We want to load the DAC, and then I'm going to create an option on the main so we can try this case 5. And remember, I'm starting a whole new whole new code straight from the AQA release. So I want to check back. Oh, I forgot to add the other variable, which is going to be deval. What's happening with my ass in these? Deval. There we go. Let's go back to the checkback, and then if we throw an exception, most likely it's because the file is not there. So if I go back to my debug folder, I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to go back here, and then I'm going to say console.writeLine. Back file not found. Okay, now let's run and see what happens. I didn't add an option on the display menu because I'm going to remove it shortly after. This is just for testing purposes. Back file not found. Good. Now let's put these back in, and once again I'm going to add that initial one just to bug it again, and let's see what happens now. That's pretty interesting. DAC file not found, but wait a minute, the DAC file is in there. What's happening is, what we're doing is we're saying check if there is an exception here. If any exception is found, then write this, no matter what happens. And that's why we have an exception, but it's not the same. And then we just say DAC file not found because that's most likely what it is, but it's not. So I'm going to keep that actually. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run the program once more, and I'm going to type in 1 instead of 5, because I want these exception to happen. I want the actual exception to happen. So I can select all of this text and copy. Now it's very important that you copy the whole thing, you don't add any spaces or anything, and you copy everything, including the full stop at the end. Now we can stop, and this message is going to be important because we can actually check what's the exception error, or what's the message of the exception. And what we can do is if ex.message is equal to that thing that we copied, then we know that's because we have more numbers in the text file than we should. Because what happens is, if we go to the load DAC sub, we're going to keep on looping until the end of the file, and while we loop, we're going to read the next 2 lines of the file. Now if we have an odd number of well, not even the odd number yet, the odd number comes after, but what happens is we try to put count becomes 53, because we go to 52, there's still more in the file, so we increment count to 53, we go back and we try to put DAC 53, the index 53 of DAC, and that's outside of the array that only goes up to 52. Now if that happens, then we know that there are more cards in the DAC file than there should be. There are more than 52 cards, or at least more than 52 sets of numbers. So we're going to do console.writeLine, and then we're going to write there are more than 52 cards in the DAC. Okay. And then if that's not it, then we're going to say what's wrong with my typing today? Well, I was right. Apologies for my lack of processing power in my brain. I'm still recovering from my cold. Okay, let's run the program and see what happens. So if we type in 5, there are more than 52 cards in the deck, exactly what we wanted. I really like when the error messages finish on ellipses. I don't know why, I just think that it looks more professional for some reason. So what I'm going to do, I remove the first one that shouldn't be there, and now I'm going to remove another one. So we're missing a leading one on the file. Let's run and see what happens. 5. Deck fire not found. Once again, the deck fire isn't there. What's happening is, and I gave it away a little bit. If I just F12 in here, what's happening is for each index of count, so for each value of count, we're reading from the file twice, which it's great if there is an even number of lines, because then we can read it twice. But if there is an odd number of lines, we try to read from nothing, because we read these two, the first one and the second one, then we read these two, and so on until we get to these two, and then we try to read this one plus something that's not there, and that is a problem. Now what we're going to do, once again, I'm going to the program's running already, so I'm going to type in 1, and we get this error already open. That's something that we'll take care of in a minute. I actually won't need to take care of. That would only happen now. There we go. So copy this message again, including a full stop, no spaces in between, no spaces before or after. Stop the program. Scroll back down to our deck, check deck, and over here we're going to do else if ex dot message is equal to this, then I'm going to say so right line less than 52 cards in the deck. Now this will handle all the possible errors that we would have upon loading the deck into the deck variable, which is great. So that's one step out of the way, but it's not everything, because there's two ways to not bug the program, but preventing it from functioning properly. What I can do is, let's say, we can add the same card twice. You don't want a deck with two cards of the same. We can remove 2 altogether, and that will be less 1 card missing, so you have 51 cards, and that's not going to throw an exception. And maybe we could change the value in here to, let's say, like change these two to 13.5. Well, not 13.5, but 14.5, sorry. So 12 becomes 14, 2 becomes 5. This will be outside of the of the possible values, because then we'll have a suit 5 and rank 14, and that doesn't exist, because there are only 5 suits in the deck and 13 different ranks of cards in the deck, in the suit. Excuse me. So let's start checking for that. What we're going to do is we're going to create a variable in the load deck, dim valley as boolean. It's going to be our validation variable, which will be equal to false by default. And the reason I'm doing that is because if I weren't to do that, I would have to put everything else that I want to follow, if there are no exceptions, in the inside of the try catch. So over here, the problem is doing that is that it takes a lot of more memory space and processing to do it within, because you're constantly checking for exceptions. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do, plus not only that, it also gets really messy if you just put a bunch of stuff in here and then you go back to that. I don't like it. What we're going to do is we're going to put value is equal true. If we manage to load the deck successfully, we know no exception has been thrown at us, so we will say okay, we load the deck successfully, carry on. So outside of the try, we can check for that. So if value is equal true, so we know that we loaded the deck successfully, we can just carry on. Otherwise, else, then we're going to do the val is equal to false. Cool. Now we can carry on. What we're going to do, first of all, we're going to check for the suits and the ranks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the first two ones to 0, 0, because those will be invalid values. They are not going to crash the program. Not in here anyway. It might. I'm not entirely sure if it would crash completely when we're checking for the tags corresponding for the suit and the rank. It might just not carry on. I'm not entirely sure, but we're going to prevent it all along because those are still invalid values. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to do a count loop, so do loop. So we need a count variable, count as integer, not integer, is equal to 1 initial value, and then we're going to need another validation variable. I'm going to call it stop loop as a boolean, which will be false by default. Good. Let's go back to our if statement, and we're going to do until count is greater than 52, and not and, or stop loop is equal to true. So while we still have counts to check, we're going to continue looping. If we find a reason to stop the loop, we'll stop it immediately because of that. Just need to change that value to false. And then we can check if now it's going to be a very long selection and leave statement. So if DAC count dot rank is less than 0, less than 1, or DAC count dot, I did rank first, so rank is greater than, and rank can go up to 13, so 13 will be the maximum value, or DAC count dot suit is less than 0, less than 1, our minimum value, or DAC count dot suit is greater than 4. Alright, now these two will check if the value for rank is valid, and these two will check if the value for suit is valid. 1 being our minimum possible value, and 13 being our maximum possible value for the rank, 1 being our least possible value for the suit, and 4 being our maximum. Now, if this is equal true, then there's a problem. If any of these is equal true, then we have an invalid either suit or DAC, after either suit or rank. And in this case, we want to deval is equal to false, and before that we're going to check which one exactly, and we're going to give an appropriate error message. So we're going to say console.writeLine excuse me, and we're going to write sorry, we're not first we need to check for which one is wrong. So we're going to do if, and then I'm going to just copy and paste these up to here. So if that, then we know that the rank is the problem. So console.writeLine, and then we're going to do the card number account and space before has an invalid rank. Like my ellipsis, close brackets. Now if it's not a rank, what else could it be but the suit? So console, in fact I'm just going to copy that statement and change the word rank to suit. Copy paste suit. And then after that, because we know that there is a problem, no matter what we're going to say the DAX is not valid, so the eval is equal to false. Now if the card that we're checking is valid, so else, we're going to increment count plus equals 1. Alright, now if I bring my thing back in, remember we still have 0, 0, so I'm going to save and I'm going to run it over here. Now let's type in 5 and see what happens. Okay, it's just repeatedly doing that because I forgot to do something. I forgot to stop the loop, so that would carry on forever. Stop loop is equal to true. Now let's try it again. 5. There we go, just once as we expected. So I'm just going to start the program. Good. Now if I put these back to 1 and check for the other value, if I remember which one is which, 5. Yep, invalid rank. Now I put these back in. So we have 1, 1 as the first values. We need to remember that because we're going to change the first values and we're going to put the same as the second one instead. So we're going to repeat one card. That's 3 and 2. Now save and let's check the deck. No error messages were found because 3, 2, 8 are valid values. The only problem is that it appears twice. So what we can do is we can very easily validate for that. It might sound scary, but there is an actual easy way around it. We can do dim num, which will be a 2-dimensional array with indexes 4 and 13. And for the sake of consistency, I'm going to ignore the indexes 0 and 0, 0 basically, because the pre-release say, or the preliminary material, it says that the indexes 0, 0 are ignored. So I'm going to ignore it as well. But you know, in a normal situation, you wouldn't want to ignore them. So this array will be an integer data type. Integer. Okay, now what we're going to do over here is where we increment our count, before we do that we're going to increment the value of our num array that we just created. What we're going to do is num, and then we need to put the indexes. I put the suit first and then the rank, so that's what we're going to do. That's going to be DAC count dot suit will be our x index, the I index, however you want to call it, and DAC count dot rank will be our y or j will be plus equals 1. Now, what does that mean is, initially, every single value on our num array would have a default value of 0. And then, if we check the DAC count item, and we check if that's valid. If it's not valid, we throw the error. If it is valid, what we do is, we take the suit of DAC count as our first index, and then we take the rank of the DAC count as our second index, and we increment this value of the array by 1. And this will keep track of how many cards of this combination there are. And ideally we want it 1. If it's not 1, if it's 0, or if it's more than 1, or if it's anything else, then we know that there are either more than 1 card, or 1 card is missing, or and we will see. And what we can do after the loop is after the loop we're going to make a for loop, which will be for, and we do want to check every single card. That's why I'm doing a for loop. For suit, so su is equals 1 to 4 for rank, so ra sorry, is equals to 1 to 13. So we have an outer loop and an inner loop, which will loop 52 times overall. Then we're going to check the value of num. So num su rn ra if not fact, if not I just thought of a better way. I'm just going to split it into 2. If num is less than 1, so sorry, if num is greater than 1, I said one thing and I did another. We're going to do console.writeLine there are more than 1 of the same card, and we're going to put DAC val, so the value of DAC is false. And I'll make another if statement. If num, I'm going to put it within so we can save time. Else if num su ra is less than 1. This time it's less than 1. I'm going to do console.writeLine. There is a card missing from the DAC. And then else, well, else we don't need to do anything else really, apart from changing the value over here, that deval is equal to false. And then what I'm going to do is, if we change the deval to true before we check that, what's going to happen is we're going to change the value to true, and then we're going to check if it is actually true, and then if it's not, we'll change. If it is, we'll just leave it as it is, and as it is true is what we want. And now we can run the program to check what happens. We still have two of the same, and let's run it. Plant 5. There's a card missing, and there are more than one of the same card, which is exactly what I want. Now we know that there's a card missing, and that's because there's a repeated card. Now you might want to keep that, like both of them, because I don't know, I can't think of a way that you would pass through all the other validations and still have one card missing and not one repeated. I don't think that would be possible, but you know, might as well, because this way you know exactly how many cards are repeated. You might have 3 cards of the same and there will be 2 missing, or you might have 4 cards of the same with 3 missing, so you know exactly how many cards are missing, how many cards are the same, those sort of things. I'm going to change that back to 1-1. And now we should have a correct back, so we shouldn't have any error messages. Good, exactly what we wanted. So that is everything for the sub. The only thing missing is to actually implement it to the program properly, because so far I've been typing 5 just for testing purposes. But I accidentally removed NKs and NK didn't select. There we go. Now what we want to do in here, we want to change load back to check deck, and we're going to put deck and eval, and then if eval, so if our deck has been loaded properly and passed through all the validation, then we're going to shuffle the deck and play the game. And then we can do the same thing over here. Change that, and then we can play the game. So let us try. I will remove the first ones. Save. So we're missing leading, 2 leading ones, and 52. Card number 52 is invalid rank. Card number, and so there we go. We're missing 1 card, and we know that's the card 52. So it's the very last card, because we removed the first one, which means that the last one would be missing. Really, would be 0-0. Now we can add 1-1, because 0-0 will be the default value. And then we can try it again. There we go. The card is, so it's working. Now if I change these back to 3-2, I know I've tested that already, but why not? We changed something, so yep, it's working. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to hit the like button. To feel free to subscribe to my channel, so you'll be notified every time I post a new video. And if you have any feedback, don't forget to leave any comments or any feedback or anything that you might want to say on the comment section below. I always check them, and I always do whatever I can to help or improve, or all those things. And once again, guess I'll see you next time.